But when you look at the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail, you study the Holy Grail. But everyone wants to know, what is this treasure of the Languedoc or Montségur? They, a very primitive person, very primitive people are told that they have some sort of treasure. It's some sort of riches. It's the some sort of gold left over from the Merovingian line or something like that. So on a very primitive level, people get told it's some sort of treasure, jewels or something like that. And other people who are a little bit more advanced, they realize it has something to do with knowledge. So they think it's like a book or an ancient manuscript that has knowledge. So at Montségur, they didn't want to give up. And they said that the Catholic Church says, just come out here and confess to us, confess your sins, and then we'll give you all a pardon. So people wonder, you know what? Why not do that? Or you wouldn't know why you don't do that unless you've been in the war. Unless you see what they do to the people. You see what gets in people and how they change people and what people become. Then you realize there's no choice but to fight. There's no giving into that. When you see what they can make people do, there's no giving into that. So to really discuss what the Holy Grail is, I got to go back to ancient Palestine, to the time of one Emmanuel Christ, to explain what that means. So Emmanuel, of course, he was married. Mary Magdalene, the lady known as Mary Magdalene, was his wife, and they had a few different children. That's not what the Holy Grail means. That might be one of the meanings, but that's not really what it means, because that's basically the Catholic Church putting emphasis on blood, hierarchy, and certain lineages. Because as you know from listening to this series, what they do is they try to take over a family, mostly the strongest, most intelligent families that are apart from their hierarchy, and pose a threat to them for one reason or another. So they try to move in and take over these families. And then after they take control of the families, after they take control of the grandparents, they could take control of the parents. And after they take control of the parents, they could take control of the children. And when they take control of the children, they could take control of the grandchildren. So it gets really hard to break out when everybody in your support group has been consumed by the demons. So that's why the Vatican puts such an emphasis on blood and tries to tell you the Holy Grail has something to do with blood and lineage, because that's the only thing they know, and it's a very primitive way of looking at things. Because anyone who knows anything knows it isn't about what's material. What matters is the spirit. Just because Emmanuel Christ was awesome doesn't mean that his great-grandchildren, they might hate religion. They might hate philosophy. They'll be like, yeah, I heard all that stuff growing up. I'd rather track the migration of whales or something. Right? They might not even be interested in philosophy. They might be into something completely different. So just because the parent is awesome doesn't mean the kids are going to be awesome, especially when the Vatican breaks up families and has all these arranged marriages. And if they have two strong parents together, a man and a woman, and they manage to break them up, they can move in someone that they can control. And then the children don't have the best influences, do they? So that's why they're big on arranged marriages and controlling the family and putting the emphasis on the blood. So those of you who want to trace the Merovingian line back to the blood of Christ and everything, that's a program from the Vatican. The Spirit knows no racial group. The Spirit knows no lineage. The Spirit reincarnates. And from my study, from my experience in the world, I've known that the human race, the spirit of the human race, it extends all around the globe. Good people helping other good people, regardless of what race they are or what religion they are. It's the spirit that matters, and not the blood. So just to finish up with the Da Vinci Code thing, Mary Magdalene and Emmanuel, known as Christ, survived the crucifixion. They most likely got into a ship and landed right around France. Because there was these Middle Eastern Semitic colonies over there, or villages over there. Most likely all these people were fleeing the Middle East due to this Roman witchcraft. So ancient Palestine at the time of Emmanuel Christ, they were occupied by the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire set up little puppet kings like Herod, and the Sadducees were another group. Even though the Pharisees are often criticized and put down, especially through the New Testament, the version that we get, the Pharisees were actually a group of kind of revolutionaries that didn't like the Roman occupation, obviously. I'm not saying that they didn't get a little bit angry with Christ when he came out with some new information, because they were always asking, where'd you hear about this? And they were asking a bunch of questions. So I'm not saying every Pharisee was a good person, but the Pharisees were in opposition to the empire, at least, being there to occupy their lands. When the Sadducees, they were basically the group of fake nobles, the fake G's that were set up, and they were rewarded for going along with the Roman Empire. They were the sellouts. The other group that was against Christ, of course, is the priests and the high priests. These high priests controlled Pontius Pilate. This was the cult of the Grail before they changed to the Roman Catholic Empire. They still existed. Roman Catholic is a front for these priests that practice witchcraft. So lots of the teachings in the New Testament from Emmanuel, that they're self-explanatory. Just read the New Testament. It shouldn't take you that long, especially if you call yourself a Christian. Go read, the New Testament at least. But there are a few stories in there that I'll cover first. It's not exactly cutting edge information, but it's interesting nonetheless. And one is about give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Because a lot of people say that and they don't really understand what that means. They kind of quote it as something to give authority to Caesar or something like that. And they were all debating one day if it's legal to pay the tax to Caesar. Why should we pay tax to Caesar? This is our land. They came in here and took over. They took over our lands. They took over our government. And we got to pay taxes for them to do it. We got to pay them to come here and take over our land and then police us. So they went to Christ and they said, is it legal to pay Caesar? And Christ says, how much is the tax? Show me what he wants from you as in tax. And so they go digging in their little pockets or the little purses and they pull out the coin that Caesar wants. And what's on the coin? What's on their money? Caesar is on their own money. Caesar's face is on their coins. And Christ says, give to Caesar what's Caesar's. He says that you already got rolled. He's controlled your whole money supply. He's taken over your whole economy. Even the change in your pocket has Caesar's faces on it. And you're going to come squabbling to me, wondering if you guys should pay some little tax to him. He's already rolled you for your whole economy. He's already rolled you for everything. And you want to know if it's legal or I think you should pay the tax. Another thing is the wedding feast, when Jesus turned water into wine. And that made everyone laugh. That was a great trick. And that was his wedding. Usually when you're invited to someone's wedding, and all of a sudden the bar runs dry, they're going to run up to you, hey, where's the wine, dude? No. They're going to go to the people who are in charge of the wedding. So there's this wedding, and we never know whose wedding it is, because the Vatican likes to delete certain things. But here's this wedding, and here not only Christ is there, but his mom is there as well. So why do you think Christ and his mom will both be there? And then when they run out of wine, why do you think the servants come and ask both Mary and Christ, where's the wine? So in the old days, they had these huge jugs that they would fill with water. And every time you go to the well, you would bring back a bucket of water and you would fill it in these large jugs. That would be like your sink. That would be your water supply. So Christ had filled up these jugs with wine ahead of time. And when a little bit of wine out on the tables ran dry, and they're like, hey, we have no more wine, he called the servants, said, top off those jugs with a little bit of water. Pour some water in those jugs. And those were water jugs, normally. So they topped off the jugs with a little bit of water, and then they turned the spigot, and out came wine. And everyone thought it was hilarious. And they tasted the wine, and it was even better than the wine that he put on the table. And they say usually people would put out the good wine first, and once you get drunk and you don't know any better, then we'll pull out the cheap wine. But he saved the good wine in these huge containers that were usually for water. And everyone thought it was hilarious.